Session 15, part 1. Today we're going to talk about rapid aging, but mostly about balancing the entity and the blockages involved. So let's begin. One of the questions that usually come up when people are doing spiritual work, and it certainly happened when you have a spiritual awakening like it happened to me, is how to balance the entity itself. How do you balance yourself into the work that you're doing? And it all comes down to the chakra system, or the energy centers as Ra called them. So some of the work that needs to be done is completely individual, and that obviously has to do with the multiple or infinite amount of possible blockages that people may have in the energy centers. And it's hard to obviously prescribe something or give some sort of information. This is not something that you can either work with somebody at most, you can just guide them. But here we're just going to talk about the blueprint of the energy centers and the blockages that are involved there, which we're mostly familiar with, but we're going to go through the session as Ra explains these energy centers. But first, let's talk about the rapid aging, as we have alluded in other sessions. And the first question is actually from Don asking, the first question is, why does rapid aging occur on this planet? Ra says, rapid aging occurs upon this third density planet due to an ongoing imbalance of receptor web complex in the etheric portion of the energy field of this planet. The thought form distortions of your peoples have caused the energy streamings to enter the planetary magnetic atmosphere, if you would so term this web of energy patterns, in such a way that the proper streamings are not correctly imbued with balanced vibratory light love from the, shall we say, cosmic level of this octave of existence. Woo! Alright, a mouthful here. So, picture the planet and picture the individual, okay? The planet has electromagnetic field that we know, and because of the distortions of our thought forms that we have created, those energies or in-streaming of energies are not coming into the planet well. Picture again, just a big distortion in the magnetic field, and it's not so much the magnetic field as we know it in science, but the electromagnetic field that exists in, say, the consciousness of the cosmos. And because of those distortions, that's what's happening. Now, on an individual level, that's happening as well, because we are a torsion field as well, and we create the same electromagnetic field from the heart-brain connection. And because of our blockages, and this will get, a lot more clear with the rest of the video, but because of those distortions is also a problem for us to kind of get this light love energy. And again, I've explained this in other sessions and in other videos in my Facebook group, that these the energy that is coming to us is practically the energy of the creator, or the energy of the creation itself. So that energy is not being funneled well because of our distortions, and you can just imagine a pipe that is clogged, and the fluid is not properly flowing through. So that's what he's basically saying, that rapid aging occurs because of that, because we're not balanced, and that causes fast decay of the body itself. Let's go on with the next question. Not the same one. The same. Don asks, do I assume correctly in assuming that one of your attempts in service to this planet was to help the population of this planet more fully understand and practice the law of one, so that this aging, rapid aging, could be changed to normal aging? You assume correctly to a great degree. And again, this makes sense. Teaching the law of one makes people much more aligned with themselves, and rapid aging would just, kind of disappear, and we would go back to the original programming of this body to have a much higher longevity as we know it now. Next question. then it would be very beneficial for the people of this planet in practicing the law of one to learn ways of service. Am I correct? Well, we all know that. Ra says, you are correct. If you will observe those oriented through a lifetime experiential distortion complex, from near the beginning of that experience, you will observe a relatively youthful, as you would call it, appearance. And this is pretty visible in a lot of cultures where, say, Tibetan Buddhists, they have an appearance that seems to be like 20 or 30 years younger. And that's because they have a sort of dedication, like Ra says, a lifetime experiential distortion complex towards, seeking of service to others, and just the law of one in general. So that's the best, anti-aging that you can possibly have. Not those creams and weird pills and stuff that they sell us in our Western world. Next question Don has is, what is the greatest service that our population on this planet could perform individually? Ra explains, there is but one service. The law is one. The offering of self to Creator is the greatest service, the unity, the fountainhead. The entity who seeks the one Creator is with infinite intelligence. From this seeking, from this offering, a great multiplicity of opportunities will evolve depending upon the mind-body-spirit complex's distortions with regard to the various illusory aspects or energy centers of the various complexes of your illusion. Thus, some become healers, some workers, some teachers, so forth. So, again, Ra emphasizes always that the best service we can have and the best way to serve the Creator is expressing the Creator as we see it. There's no one way, and this is why it's so crucial for me, this information, that there is no one way. There is no grabbing the law of one material and try to teach it to everybody. There's no Bible, no Quran, there's no specific way to express the Creator. It's just how you see it and how we perceive it. And that could be from the most craziest possible way to the most academic and scholastic way of expressing it. That's all fine as long as you're being genuine in your expression of the Creator. That's basically all that's needed, to be honest. And the other part is that from this seeking, you will find out who you are and what you are meant to become, or what you want to become, actually, which is kind of like the same thing when you go down to fundamentals. So that's why he says that some people become workers, teachers, healers, and educators, so on and so forth. Whatever we are going to become just by expressing the way we see the Creator. No external God, no fancy stuff, just how you see this world, the creation itself. There is no one specific Creator. We are all parts of the Creator in different iterations of it. So again, I hope this makes sense, because I think this is probably the most important part of the law of one, and just expressing the law of one in general. There is no specific way. Like he says, the law is one. Let's go. Next question. If an entity were perfectly balanced on this planet with respect to the law of one, would he undergo the aging process? Ra says, a perfectly balanced entity would become tired rather than visibly age. The lessons being learned, the entity would depart. However, this is appropriate and is a form of aging which your peoples do not experience. The understanding comes slowly, the body complex decomposing more rapidly. Well, again, this is, I guess, the by default, the way of living here in this third density is that you come here for the lessons, and whether you age and your body decomposes and you die, or you learn the lessons and you die. I mean, you come here, you get what you have to do, and you're gone. So, and Ra explains in other sessions that aging is actually a function of our the design of the body. And we were designed to live millennia, I believe he says, which kind of corresponds with some of the biblical references of characters there are living for over 900 years, and that makes sense. But the point is that when you come here, you just come here to learn the lessons as you program yourself. I know I'm going to speculate a little bit here because of everything that I know in the way Ra expresses, how we program ourselves to be here. But think about the catalyst that is imposed on the body complex for say, a given lifetime. Somebody may program, disabilities, which are very common, to learn specific lessons. So people with disability tend not to live very long. And that's because they program themselves that way so they can see the world in such a way that it wouldn't distract them from learning the lesson that they came here to learn. And this is crucial also for people who have, they were born with disabilities. Those disabilities were programmed by the spirit to create this learning, and that's just down to the individual, of course, and appreciating what the disabilities that they have. I mean, Carla Ruckert came with a bunch of disabilities and she learned how to deal with that. She talked about this a lot. But anyhow, going beyond the point, that's what rapid aging is. Let's move to the next question. Can you tell me a little bit about the definition of the word balancing as we're using it? Ra says, picture, if you will, the one infinite. You have no picture. Thus, the process begins. Love creating light, becoming love light, streams into the planetary sphere according to the electromagnetic web of points or nexi of entrance. These streamings are then available to the individual who, like the planet, is a web of electromagnetic energy fields with points or nexi of entrance. In a balanced individual, each energy center is balanced and functioning brightly and fully. The blockages of your planetary sphere cause some distortion of intelligent energy. The blockages of the mind-body-spirit complex further distort or unbalance this energy. There is one energy. It may be understood as love light or light love or intelligent energy. When we started the video, I kind of touched on this point. There are energies streaming into the planets, and it is our job to perceive or receive these energies. I mean, we cannot do much. Well, we can do as much as we can to try to balance the grid of the planet, say. And that's basically what Ra is saying, based on my understanding and my interpretation of this. There are energies flowing into the planet because of the different nexi, and that has to do with the grid of the planet and so on. And we distort them with our thought forms, like they said at the beginning. But also, we are responsible of our own blockages, because these energies, even if they're distorted, they're coming in and we are accepting them. But because we have blockages in our own energy centers, just like the planet has, we kind of not perceive that energy well, or funnel it into our complex in the proper way. So that's what he calls, like, there is only one energy, which is love light. That is the energy of the creator. Remember from the creation of previous sessions, if you remember, this energy is intelligent because intelligent infinity gave it that pattern, and that pattern is to create and to have an experience. So again, I'm going away from the topic, but that's basically the visualization that I would like to just express here. There's energy coming to the planet has its distortions, but the energy is still coming in. It is up to us to not only help in balancing the grid of the planet in the way that the distortions are, because we produce them, but also in our own entity as our own fractal of the creator. Hope that makes sense. Let's go. Don asks, am I correct in assuming that one of the blockages of a mind-body-spirit complex might be due to an unbalance of, shall we say, ego, and this could be balanced using, say, a worthiness-unworthiness balance? Ra says, this is incorrect. Don asks, can you tell me how you balance the ego? Great question here. Ra says, we cannot work with this concept as it is misapplied, and understanding cannot come from it. Don asks, how does an individual go about balancing himself? What is the first step? Here we go with the biggest part of this session. Ra says, the steps are only one. That is, an understanding of the energy centers which make up the mind-body-spirit complex. This understanding may be briefly summarized as follows. The first balancing is of the Malkuth, or Earth, vibratory energy complex, called the red ray complex. An understanding and acceptance of this energy is fundamental. Okay, so this is going to be a very long answer, and we're going to stop here just to say that Malkuth or red ray complex refers to the lowest chakra, the red chakra. So this is the root chakra where basically our survivability is. If you're familiar with the chakra system, that's where all our survival and our stability of beingness comes into play. Now, as we progress, I'm going to make some analogies here that I think is very important, and I'll finish with a conclusion in regards to the whole thing of balancing the chakras and, the energy centers. But we're going to go one by one, as you can see, and Ron's explaining. The first one is the red ray, basically understanding what this means. And he doesn't go into full details, but we have a lot of knowledge in terms of the chakras and the energy centers. So let's move on. The next energy complex which may be blocked is the emotional or personal complex, also known as the orange ray complex. This blockage will often demonstrate itself as personal eccentricities or distortions with regard to self-conscious understanding or acceptance of self. All right, we know this as the sexual chakra and the creative chakra. But in this context, Ra always talks about the identity of self, the understanding of who you are. And that's why the blockages here, as they are explaining, has to do with the distortions that may look as eccentricities or simply not accepting the self, or just, we can go on with so many things that come out, from people having distortions here, which is, again, pretty much attacked in this society when through the different, expressions of who we are naturally, distortions can come here very, very strong. And I have so many that I identify all the time, and even doing these videos is to me a challenge to kind of let go of my old perception of self, my ego perception of self, and not trying to fall into these traps. But that's what he's referring to here, or they are referring. I keep calling them him, his, or him. Next point. Ra goes and says, the third blockage resembles most closely that which you have called ego. It is the yellow ray or solar plexus center. Blockages in this center will often manifest as distortions towards power manipulation and other social behaviors concerning those close and those associated with the mind-body-spirit complex. Those with blockages in these first three energy centers or nexi will have continuing difficulties in inability to further their seeking of the law of one. Okay, so third solar plexus, the yellow ray, is the other one that obviously has blockages, and this has to do with our social interaction, our behavior towards other selves, other people, how we treat them, how we manipulate them, how we interact with them as part of this social complex that we all belong to. So the blockages may come there, and again, I'm not going to say, because then I'll be playing very biased here, and I don't like to interpret the law of one this way. I don't want to say that just manipulating it's a distortion. Manipulation, it's actually, to me, not a distortion, but is a selection. It's actually a choice. It's a choice towards self-service, or service to the self, selfish behavior. But I don't think that's a distortion. I think that's just a choice, the negative choice. Now, the positive choice, of course, is service to others, is serving other people, trying to help other people. That is not a distortion either. That is, Ra would say that everything is a distortion. They're right, but we're talking about distortions in the energy centers. So in terms of the distortion of the energy center itself, it's just who you become. I may be wrong in saying that self-serving is not a distortion, but correct me if I'm wrong. If you know the material, I'm always open to suggestions on how to change this, but I believe that if that is a path, there shouldn't be any distortion when you manipulate other people, and there shouldn't be any distortion if you decide to help other people. That's just the path, polarizes you toward the positive or the negative. That's how I understand it. The next thing he says is that those with blockages in the first 3 energy centers have problems understanding the law of one. Why? Because after these 3 is where you identify yourself and you become either a loving being or a loving, self-loving being, which is how you end up polarizing towards the negative and actually activating the indigo, bypassing the heart and the throat chakra. This is known by the Ra's explanation of how negative beings actually produce the ascension or transcend into 4th density, like we have explained before. Genghis Khan, Taras Bulba, and Rasputin did. Just basically potentiating as much as possible these 3 energy centers, and that's why they have trouble. People who are trying to understand the law of one, they may have trouble just by having distortions there, because they really need to have those balance. So say if you're a positive being, you need to have those balance to reach the heart chakra. If you have any sort of imbalance in your solar plexus, guess what? You're not going to be able to deal with others in the way that you're supposed to. So you're not going to be able to move on to the heart and seek the law of one. Likewise, if you're a negative being and you have distortions here of any sort, you will have problems trying to potentiate them so you can activate the indigo and polarize toward the negative to the 4th density. So I hope this makes sense. Let's move on with the rest of the energy centers. And Ra continues saying, the center of heart or green ray is the center from which 3rd density beings may springboard, shall we say, towards infinite intelligence. Blockages in this area may manifest as difficulties in expressing what you may call universal love or compassion. Again, now we're departing from the negative entities because they don't activate the heart chakra. They actually bypass it, like I just said. And this has to do with the positive entity who is trying to, like he says, or they say, springboard their progression towards intelligent infinity. And the blockage is just difficult in expressing universal love, or what we call compassion, full compassion, unconditional love. Again, if you have issues trying to grasp this concept of being a loving being, unconditional loving being, then you're going to have blockages there, and it's just going to create more issues in the distortion of the spirit, the mind-body-spirit complex that we are. So that's the heart chakra, green energy center. Let's move on to what I'm using right now, which is my throat chakra. The blue ray center of energy streaming is the center which, for the first time, is outgoing as well as inpouring. Those blocked in this area may have difficulty in grasping the spirit-mind complexes of its own entity, and further difficulty in expressing such understandings of self. Entities blocked in this area may have difficulties in accepting communication from other mind-body-spirit complexes. Well, like I said, this is the throat chakra, and it's all to do with the expression of self, but also understanding the expression of other selves. Like Ra says here, it's outgoing as well as inpouring, which means it goes, it comes, it goes as well. That kind of, and that's how I understand it. Like I said, I could be corrected here. I would love to be corrected and get another point of view, but that's how I see it. And those who have blockages here, they just have issues expressing themselves as they truly are and understanding those who are expressing themselves as well. So blockages here to me is just the understanding of who we are and what other people are, having any sort of judgment, say, for the expression of other people or how they are. Those blockages to me just sound, for, say, earthly examples. Say, understanding why somebody is so inclined for music or to express themselves in a very, aggressive manner. It doesn't matter, you just have to understand why, whether they have distortions or not. That's not for us to judge. It's just for us to appreciate who they are and the way they are expressing it. We all have our throat chakra activated, so we may not potentiate it, but we have it activated. And it's just our job to understand and kind of just accept, other people's and our own expression as well. Huge topic here, but let's go on. The next center is the pineal or indigo ray center. Those blocked in this center may experience a lessening of the influx of intelligent energy due to manifestations which appear as unworthiness. This is that of which you spoke. As you can see, this is but one of many distortions due to the several points of energy influx into the mind-body-spirit complex. Boom. Oh, there's a little bit more. So I did the transition and I should go back. The indigo ray balancing is quite central to the type of work which revolves about the spirit complex, which has its influx then into the transformation or transmutation of third density to fourth density, it being the energy center receiving the least distorted outpourings of love light from intelligent energy, and having also the potential for the key to the gateway of intelligent infinity. All right, I promise you this. Now we're good. So this is obviously our third eye and our perception of what is universal or cosmic intelligence. So distortions here, and I'll give you my personal example. I didn't believe in anything, absolutely anything, for 25 years. And if you have followed me so far, you know my story. For 25 years, I was not religious, spiritual, or any sort of... I had no interest in esoteric knowledge at all. This is relatively new to me. So through that time, I had probably the most self-imposed blockage. Scientists are very well known for this. Cannot understand anything that has to do with synchronicities or mystical or enigmatic behaviors of the universe. Everything has to be very square and very specific. So the distortions there, again, just prevent us from seeing and appreciating the mysterious part of the universe. This is also how we access intelligent infinity for whatever purpose we may use it for. But this is how we use it. And this is why also negative entities, they do the bypass of the heart and throat because they don't really care, and they go straight to the indigo ray because that's how they access intelligent infinity, and they can complete their activation all the way to fourth, fifth, and even sixth density. But that's another topic. So again, the blockages here is just in the perception of these energies that are coming. I think he says is one of the least distorted outpourings of love light, meaning love light, remember, is the energy, the intelligent energy actually, that is coming from the cosmic, say, showering of energy. And because of we have distortions there, we may perceive it all wrong, and we either allow it or don't allow it. But this is the one that is least distorted in terms of the way in how it inpours into our body complex. So last part of this session, and it goes to explain the rest of it, saying the remaining center of energy influx is simply the total expression of the entity's vibratory complex of mind, body, and spirit. It is as it will be. Balance or imbalance has no meaning at this energy level, for it gives and takes in its own balance. Whatever the distortion may be, it cannot be manipulated as can the others, and therefore has no particular importance in viewing the balancing of an entity. And that's how we finish it off. I always said when I started learning the energy centers or the chakras that the seventh is not part of our own complex, because whenever I see it depicted, it's always like up here, and it seems like it's like imagine if we are an entity, well, we are an entity, and we're flowing through the universe and energy. This is like the sea, the cosmic sea, that is surrounding us, and probably the generator of the aura, right? So that is not accessible to us. We cannot manipulate it. We cannot, if there are distortions, they may be coming from our own say expression of that energy, our own outpouring of this energy as an entity. So the distortion that is around us is basically generated by us. There's no way to manipulate that bubble, let's say, just this generator of the bubble, if that makes sense. Now, the conclusion that I wanted to get in this whole explanation is that you can see a couple of things. One, that one builds upon the other, right? So from each chakra or energy center, we build upon the other. It's dependent one of the other, except for negative beings who don't really care and bypass. But I'm assuming you're not a negative being, and if you are, well, I hope this makes sense to you. But everything builds upon the other. And one of the coolest thing is that all the octaves in all their expressions in the cosmic array of this creation makes sense when you compare them, because, say, the creation of the universe, as we have explained, and the densities of consciousness correspond specifically to each of the chakras. So these consciousness or levels of consciousness actually create the same parallels to our own creation. That's why it is said that we are our own universe. We are a replica of the universe with our energy centers, and we have the power to create and destruct as well, if you haven't noticed yet, in our world. So these correlate exactly with the densities of consciousness. And as you want to progress, say, this is the best example, and I'll leave you with this. If you want to progress towards 4th density, which is the density of love and understanding, then you have to understand also that you have to become that loving and understanding being here. So in the same way, the wisdom and light density of consciousness, which is the blue one or the throat chakra, that's what we should be striving for as well, if we want to just align that and clear the distortions that may exist there. So that's all I got for this week. Next week we'll go with part 2. I hope you enjoy this. I hope it makes sense. Like I said, this is just a blueprint of what we need to do. It's another point of view in terms of what the chakra systems are, and of course, how we can just continue to do our work and clear those distortions, which again, you have to identify for yourself if you're doing this kind of work. They may show up, they may hide. It's all part of the work that you have to do. But my hope is just that this helped. Again, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a like if you want, or if you like the video, unlike or dislike, whatever it is. If you don't, but in any case, just thank you for watching. I appreciate that. I'll send you all my love. Hope you're doing your work to align yourself better and clear those pesky distortions. I'll see you in part 2 of session 15.